good morning, and welcome back to Judging by the Cover. Today's episode, we are looking at something a little supernatural where you are playing as a witch. That's right, this is the first week of Spooky Month. So let's look at Hades 2. Now, mind you, this is judging by the cover, meaning we are judging the game and rating it without having played a single minute of the game. Now, with this one, I also have not played the original Hades, but I am aware of Hades' notoriety among the roguelike action RPG genre, with similarities to things like the Diablo series or Path of Exile, which I also have a review for Path of Exile too, so that's over at near the beginning of the playlist, I believe. Anyway, Hades 2 is showcasing a lot of cinematic flair in its store page. That said, it does also show an ample amount of gameplay. Now, I did also briefly look at the Nintendo Switch eShop page, which, quite frankly, was a huge disappointment. It had zero trailers on the Nintendo eShop page, despite showing a trailer in the Nintendo Direct. So why they excluded that when we have two front end trailers and then four other trailers on the back end of the Steam page. It shows so much of the action footage to entice you and to show what kind of gameplay you can expect from it outside of just the screenshots. Now, the screenshots do really show us quite a bit, as well as the trailers. The trailers give us a lot to go on and do an amazing job at setting the tone, showing a little bit of the characterization, and cluing you in as to what you can be expecting to look at. We do see, monsters and skills. There's all kinds of skill and weapons. You have all these character interactions, which, from what I understand in the original Hades, the character interactions and the dialogue you would have with the characters was a huge selling point of it, in addition to the varied action RPG gameplay that heavily uh, favored experimenting and trying different combinations of power-ups, weapons, all that kind of stuff. Boons from the gods off the Greek pantheon, a whole lot of cool stuff with that. So, with Hades being centered around the underworld, this one is showcasing a that looks like a pirate treasure and like a sunken ship kind of setting. Anyway, a whole lot of stuff going on with pantheons, a return of Kronos, the I believe the Titan of Time, that was the precursor to the Greek gods. So Kronos appears to be coming back, and you have to go and deal with that and help save your family and all that. A cool little motif and storyline they're going on, and just the premise alone is enough to get me interested in the story of the game. Now, it does have, as somebody who has played multiple Diablo games and played the first Path of Exile, the action RPG elements driving the game makes it easy to kind of skip over the story. But at the same time, I do like the story of those games as much as the game is more about the action RPG gameplay. The environments in the screenshots and the trailers are pretty vibrant. Like, you can tell what is what, like with a path in the background. You can tell what everything is supposed to be, where, like, it looks pretty clear on where you're supposed to go. The character art is so good. Like the character, the cinematics, even the gameplay graphics, I visually it is just a feast for the eyes, and not in necessarily the fan servicey, like, oh my gosh, TNA aspect, but just the actual gameplay fluidity of it. We do see in the little images that it shows here on the Steam page, which, again, these kinds of things would go really well on the Switch to help showcase the game better. First ever sequel from the Supergiant Games builds on the best aspects of the original godlike, road-like dungeon crawler in an all-new action-packed, endlessly replayable experience rooted in the underground of Greek myth and its deep connections to the dawn of witchcraft. That is what they're telling us on the store page. Now, that alone, because of the kind of game this is the sort of game where you would spend hours and hours and hours delving into it to perfect your runs, to unlock everything. And frankly, for me as a player personally, that's probably the biggest hurdle that I would have with choosing to buy this game, since I am the kind of person that has a limited time. I am always trying to work on other projects on top of, doing my day job because I do not get paid for doing these videos. This is purely like a little hobby thing for me. But looking at this, it if I were to find the time or to get a worthwhile discount on this, I would be like, you know what? Hands down, I would 100% buy this if I believed I had the time to devote to it that I feel like the game deserves. Not even necessarily like sometimes I harp on the time for the time that I might find myself spending with it to feel like I got my money's worth. For this one, I would want to put in the time that I feel like the game deserves to get that out of it. So, moving on with the description, we have battle beyond the underworld. So, of course, being Hades, you are delving into the underworld situation. As the immortal princess of the underworld, you will explore a bigger, deeper mythic world, vanquishing the forces of the Titan of Time with the full might of Olympus behind you in a sweeping story that continuously unfolds through your every setback and accomplishment. So, as you go in, because it is a roguelike, I'm expecting, like, they showcase up front with that, and the whole aspect of the roguelike is that you go in, you start your run, and you're probably going to die. But then, whatever resources you get there, you bring back to base to expand your base and to boost your skills, like the skills you can start with, so that you can do better and go further on your next run. Master witchcraft and dark sorcery. Infuse your legendary weapons of night and ancient magic, spelled with CK, so that none may stand in your way. Become stronger still with powerful boons from more than a dozen Olympian gods, from Apollo to Zeus. There are nearly limitless ways to build your abilities. And that's the part that appeals here is that, if you find yourself not doing so well, maybe it's not necessarily that you are bad at the game. Maybe whatever like combination of weapons, skills, and power-ups you picked just don't really mesh well together. So experimenting with those and finding what works, especially finding what works for your personal style, can go a long way in here. You mingle with more gods, ghosts, and monsters. Meet a cast of dozens of fully voiced, larger than life characters. Okay, the voice acting, I can always like give or take voice acting. But sometimes it is nice to have those characters with a voice. It gives it a little more like life to the game. And even as somebody who plays a lot of games that do not have voice acting, and sometimes I even skip over the voice acting if I just want to get through the dialogue because I can read faster than the voice acting happens. Sometimes it's just nice to listen to the acting in it. Including plenty of new faces and some old friends. You grow closer to them through a variety of new interactions and experience countless unique story events based on how your journey unfolds. It says every run is its own adventure with new locations, challenges, upgrade systems, and surprises await you as you delve into the ever shifting underworld again and again. Reveal the mysteries of the altar of ashes, tame witchy familiars, and gather reagents using tools of the unseen to get closer to your goal. So it gives you a lot of like smaller tasks that probably add various different kind of buffs and power ups to your character. With the thing with the familiars, I'd like to see, what kind of familiars are in there, what kind of effects they might have, or if they're just cosmetic, then I'm not as interested. But I'm hoping that because of how much they boast, so multiple upgrade systems for you to work through, that I'm hoping the familiars are one of those systems so that they're more than just a cute critter. Let's see, the perks of immortality. Thanks to a variety of permanent upgrades and the return of God mode, you don't have to be a god yourself to experience what Hades 2 has to offer. But if you happen to be one, you can brave escalating challenges for greater rewards and prove just how divine you really are. And just a little snippet here, like looking at these little character portraits they have. Obviously, I'm not as familiar with the first Hades, so I probably couldn't name each and every one of them, although it did show you the names of some characters in the trailer as well, and some of them were kind of funny. Like the fact that the Dionysus uh, flash by in the trailer is like, oh my gosh, they seriously put him in a speedo with a huge bulge, and I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense with Dionysus, but seriously, they just throw that into the trailer. But then you got these like cinematically gorgeously drawn characters with extremely identifiable traits to them, and then you have this one over here, this little ghosty, and I'm like, that. What is this? Who? What is that? And with that character being such a departure, why is it endearing? Like, why do I want to? Why do I want that character to have like so much central focus when everybody else has like these, oh my gosh, this full blown Adonis look to them? I don't know. But the signature Supergiant style, rich, atmospheric presentation and storytelling fused with responsive action is the hallmark of Supergiant's titles. Vivid, new, hand painted environments, even smoother real time 3D characters, and an electrifying original score make this mythic world burst with life. And frankly, that right there, that description is what the trailers showcase perfectly. Though those are the things missing from the Switch store page. Now, with the description, don't know, don't care. The fact that the trailers show it in motion. They show the characters, they show gameplay, they show cinematics, they show the environments, they show the music in all of its vibrance, the voice acting. The trailers do an amazing job at selling what to expect from the game. Even the screenshots, like the screenshots are good, especially the ones here that showcase, your character interactions. There's much left to do, headmistress. You got like your mentor as you are the witch. You do see some snippets from the gameplay footage here. Like I said earlier, we have the one here with the little undersea sunken ship, probably little village here. Quite frankly, this one here, this one looks almost like Tristram from the Diablo games. But then again, a village is a village. The fact that they have that in here as just one of your environments, it's so vibrantly done, even with the muted colors. Like everything is just kind of popping in there. The character having her brighter motif to pop from the environment is kind of a nice little touch there, so you can kind of pick up on where you are visually located and where all the attacks are, so that the environments, they have the muted colors, but they are still colorful and vibrant enough to show you the environment and the landscape that you're working with, but that it doesn't distract from the important gameplay aspects, mainly the combat, because this is a very combat focused game. Nemesis, Retribution, and Karmit. So we do see more of the characters here, more of some kind of chemical shenaniganry going on here. I don't know what that background is. I don't know. Maybe I'd know more if I played the first Hades game. But there's a lot. There's just so much here. I can't gush enough over how good this looks, especially for October, for Spooky Month, where we want everything to just look and sound amazing. The fact that you are playing as this witch, like this apprentice witch, daughter of Hades being the central motif here, with a storyline centered around both Hades and Olympus, and what sounds like a choice to go one way or the other in order to deal with the threat of Kronos, so that ideally you will eventually play both routes. I don't know if that's necessarily the angle we're going with, but that is what the trailer and the description sound like, is that there's this dual route system where you choose whether you're going deep into the underworld or to the pinnacle of Olympus to fight Kronos, to meet with the other deities, team up with them, get their boons, their power-ups, and everything. But the basically it's just the trailers. If you only had the trailers and no other description to go off of, they alone, I feel, sell this game, so that even the full $30 price tag is well worth the value. Now, I know AAA gaming industry goes, 60, 70, $80 these days, depending on the edition, the added features and everything. Honestly, sometimes maybe a couple little microtransactions here, even in your AAA full price games. And a lot of times with indie games, I try to look for a price of like $15 or less. But honestly, for the sheer notoriety that Supergiant has carrying over from the first Hades, and the replayability and the sheer amount of content and experimenting that this game promises, with both the description and the trailer footage and everything, I can't help but feel that $30 is a perfectly fair price. Heck, this could have been a $60 game and it would probably still be worth it. The fact that they put this game out as polished and as amazing looking as it is for 30. Now, I personally will be waiting to see if there's a sale on it to based just because of the amount of time that I feel like I could not give this that it deserves. But at the same time, I do encourage if this is up your alley, if you are a longtime veteran or fan of the first Hades, of Diablo games, Path of Exile, this is probably another game to just scratch that itch, especially when it adds that roguelike element where it's less of a raw progression of your individual character and more of a yes, you're advancing your character, but every run is going to have its own unique spin to it just because of the roguelike fashion. So for this, I feel like I just have to give Supergiant a solid 10 out of 10. And that's what it is. Supergiant is they proved their success with the first Hades, and the fact that they have this one coming out, because the first Hades isn't even that old as I recall. Uh it just gives us so much to go on here. And I do hope that there's a sale on it at some point soon so that I could give it at least the amount of time that I feel like I would be able to give to this, that eventually I might be able to give it the time it deserves. But until then, I am going to be keeping an eye out for this. Like I said, 10 out of 10. If anybody else out there has a bigger note based on the first game or having played this one already, by all means, let me know what you think down there. And if I'm missing anything, please just correct me and derail my thought process in there because I do like to see what other people think.